Hello, this is Pivot to AI. I'm David Gerard, and today we have another interview episode. This is with Kim Crawley of stopgenai.com, a site you should all go to after you finish watching or listening. Today, Kim is talking to us about her new book coming out in a couple of months, Technofascism Survival Guide.
Yeah,
Hello, Kim.
it's great to be here, David.
Of course it is. So, you know the area of technology and security super well. Tell me about your previous work. You did quite well with your books for O'Reilly before they got eaten by AI brainworms. It's very sad.
Actually, my first big success in the world of publishing was when I worked with Philip Wiley to write the Pen Tester Blueprint, which is really based on his idea and his presentations about how to build a career as a penetration tester, which is otherwise known as an ethical hacker, which that naming in and of itself is kind of controversial. But basically, I helped contextualize his pen testing knowledge to the rest of cybersecurity. And to this day, it's one of the better selling titles on penetration testing on Amazon.
You still
Uh,
get a few pennies from that, don't you?
yeah, I get nice surprise royalty checks from that every so often. And then like I've written other things, like I wrote 8 Steps to Better Security also for Wiley after that, which is more my philosophy for enterprise cybersecurity in general for an enterprise that's just starting out to think about their security maturity. For O'Reilly, I wrote Hacker Culture A to Z, which is known in American English as Hacker Culture A to Z. And it is as it sounds like. It's got listings alphabetized from A to Z that are relevant to hacker culture or cybersecurity, and you can read it in any order. And I cover a wide range of topics from video game consoles to Bell Labs. I just love the history of computing more than anything else. So that writing that book was a real fulfillment of a dream of mine. And it was really great that I was given the opportunity to write a book for O'Reilly Media that was based on my concept. The only thing is, like as wonderful as some of the people working for O'Reilly Media are, shortly after that book was published in November 2023, Tim O'Reilly bit the Gen AI bug. And then I found out
It's
through my
very sad.
editors who are internal O'Reilly employees that he was pushing them to show to him how often they were using Gen AI every day. And he was using that as like a KPI measuring metric, I think just before this whole token vaccine phenomenon came out.
Fantastic. So you definitely go back if you could use 2 million tokens every day.
Yeah, and it's such a so I was really creeped out by that, and it does give me the feeling that Hacker Culture A to Z might have been the last non-tech manual that O'Reilly ever published that isn't tainted with Gen AI. So
Now they've got their guide to vibe coding. Apparently you have to read the book to vibe code now.
yeah. Oh,
You don't want to be left behind.
it's so disturbing on so many different levels. I mean, I think about the environmental destruction. I every time someone prompts, I can't help but think about the environmental destruction that it causes. I visualize a lake being drained and a forest being burned down. So when people who say that they are anti-Gen AI, they say that they do things like, I put in some prompts into ChatGPT to show these clankers how bad ChatGPT actually is. To me, I kind of flinch because it's like, okay, so you're burning down the forest and draining lakes again to show the forest burner downer lake drainers that it's a lying machine. And it is a lying machine because it's just repeating, like if it's an LLM, it's just repeating text patterns.
Yeah.
I always give people a pass if their employer is forcing them to use Gen AI. Because
So many people. These are half the people who contact me these days. It's people saying, yeah, I have to use this stuff at work. Here's what it's like. I am pleased to say it's like, why don't you just try it? They have tried it and they hate it so much.
And it must be so absolutely miserable to be an employee who's being forced to use Gen AI. I will accept that as a reasonable excuse to use Gen AI because I have spent the majority of my adult life near the bottom of the corporate ladder, and I know what it's like to panic if you lose your survival income paying rent, buying food job. So I will always give people a pass for that. Oh, yeah. And then the other excuse that I find to be completely reasonable is if the UI of your operating system or application or whatever tricked you into producing or engaging with Gen AI.
The
Because
freaking
you know
sparkles
the
everywhere.
user interfaces are being designed to trick people into accidentally slipping on that Copilot button and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
So it is,
Technofascism Survival Guide.
yeah,
Now, who is this book for?
this book
What is your envisioned audience?
I really have the person who is not super technically literate in mind, someone who has a level of computer literacy to the extent that they use their smartphone every day and they can basically navigate around their operating system, but they don't consider themselves to be IT professionals or computer science wizards or anything like that. So that is the person who I have in mind when I'm writing this book. So it's not a book that's just for nerds. Um,
Normally online people.
yeah, because there are big concerns about the growth of technofascism. And this has become a more hot topic this week because apparently Palantir has released a manifesto that
Oh
academics
boy.
are correctly calling techno-fascist, which again talks about how Alex Karp wants to merge Palantir's military surveillance, law enforcement surveillance platform, which also implements Gen AI, by the way, with
It farms it out to Anthropic, but that's all right then, because Anthropic are the nice one, remember?
yeah, they get to play good cop. It's so very creepy. Half of the book is actually not about technology so much. It's more about the history of political activism, and it's about fascism.
Basic organizing.
Yeah, and it's about fascism from a political science perspective rather than a computer science perspective.
I mean, you don't have to read a ton of theory to understand that authoritarians getting not just pushy, but actually really weird is something that people get viscerally, I think,
Yeah.
and some of them just don't, but enough of them do. So, how is the Kickstarter going? You got a Kickstarter, it reached goal, but of course, we all got to eat, and eating a bit better is nice. So, how's it going?
Yeah, well, the actual strict campaign with a 30-day deadline ended in February. But Kickstarter recently introduced a feature called late pledges, which means that if someone with a Kickstarter campaign enables the late pledges feature, they can receive additional pledges after the main campaign is over. So
So, get in there, kids.
yeah, so that's basically what the money that I've been living on right now has been on the late pledges.
Huh,
So what I recommend for people is that for about, I would say 12 US dollars, which would be around 10 Australian dollars, or I think about 8 British pounds, you can make a pledge that is enough to reserve your ebook copy.
fantastic.
And that's what I'm
Um,
urging people to do.
how'd the previous one go? Digital Safety in a Dangerous World. That came
Digital
out earlier this year.
Yeah, digital safety in a dangerous world. I finished right at the end of 2025, and then I hit the publish button, which sent my ebook to various retailers and whatnot. Because I basically finished that book when everyone was leaving me alone for a bit because it was the holiday season. So I got a ton of work done. I probably drank an entire massive carton of Monster Energy to get that done. And it was a good preliminary book into a lot of these topics because people are concerned about increased surveillance. They're concerned about cameras being everywhere, which they should be. They're concerned about everything they do online being monitored. They're concerned about not being anonymous online. People in the United States are concerned about ICE because ICE has been getting more powerful as the years go on and the US government funds it more and more. It's becoming more and more Gestapo, and there are plenty of verifiable incidents of. Now, I don't believe anyone deserves to be subject to anything that ICE does. But
So, what's the audience for that? Just anyone?
yeah, so anyone who is concerned, so for instance, if you're concerned that you or someone you care about could be subject to ICE or subject to abuses from other sorts of law enforcement agencies, there's going to be advice in the book about how to minimize your online footprint, at least that can be used to surveil you. All the advice in my book will be lawful for as much as possible. It's more focused on reducing your footprint. It's about using every lawful available cryptographic technology available to you, not to be confused with cryptocurrency, but I mean just basically encrypting, like putting through a cipher your data in storage and your data in transit in such a way that you're not just revealing information about yourself possibly to the wrong parties, right?
Cool.
And then I also I covered this in Digital Safety in a Dangerous World, but again, I will cover how to attend a protest without, well, with minimal danger to yourself, that sort of thing, right?
Cool.
Um, and how to go about your daily life, how to find as much anonymity as you possibly can. And another thing that I'm an advocate for, which is kind of controversial, and I got into a fight with Anil Dash about that on Mastodon the other day, I think, is I am a strong believer in if more and more of the clear web, which is the normal web that everyone uses, World Wide Web, if more and more of the World Wide Web is being, now by saying World Wide Web, I'm dating myself as someone who was on the web in the 90s. But if more and more people, if we find on the web that more and more of it is being owned by these evil techno-fascist corporations, and that the content is slop generated by generative AI rather than stuff created by humans, and it becomes more and more of a bleak wasteland, I advocate for migrating to the Tor web, which are all the websites that you can only access through the Tor proxy network, and
Mm.
they have a .onion top-level domain, or through the I2P web, which is the same sort of idea. You got to access the I2P proxy network, and I believe the top-level domain there is .I2P. I think Tor, in my experience, is a lot more user-friendly than I2P, just because the developers of Tor browser, which is a fork of Firefox, which implements Tor functionality, so you don't have to separately configure your connection to the Tor network. So it'll connect you to the Tor network automatically if you launch Tor browser. That is a much more user-friendly experience. I think the I2P experience is generally friendly and minimal friction once you've set everything up for yourself on your phone or PC for it. But I think the initial setup for using I2P on your phone or PC endpoint can be kind of off-putting to some people.
We've got a topic at Pivot to AI. It's AI and the AI bubble. So tell me, how does Technofascism Survival Guide teach you how to deal with our wonderful AI bubble?
Yeah, because to me, I see Gen AI as a byproduct of technofascism.
Well, that's increasingly not a controversial opinion. But anyway,
Yeah. So Gen AI is a major instrument of technofascism because of, for multiple reasons. One, because of its monitoring footprint and how it's trying to take in as much data on everyone and everything as possible. Secondly, because it's trying to get people to delegate their thinking. So when you delegate your thinking to a techno-fascist corporation, that is a techno-fascist mechanism. So why should I think idea? Why should I come up with ideas for writing email or writing story or painting, drawing or whatever when I can just put in prompt and let the other thing think for me? And there have already been tons of studies that show cognitive harm from people delegating their thinking to generative AI. One from the MIT Media Lab that I was looking at this morning that was
Yeah.
comparing.
The other reason to think these guys are into techno-fascism is because they open their mouths and say so. And you have Mark Andreessen pushing the EAC manifesto and saying this would be a really great idea. And hey, you should read this guy. He wrote the original 1920s fascist manifesto. You should totally follow that guy. And you go, what do you want about? And it's like, yeah, you'd have to be willfully ignoring their literal words.
And that's why I will always accept people being forced to use Gen AI at work because I understand the power imbalance there. And I will always forgive people for accidentally using Gen AI because of the tricky way that they're designing these user interfaces to trick people into using. It's such a great technology that they got to trick people into using it now.
To replace the power button on your phone with a Gemini button, because
Exactly.
who wants to switch your phone on and off when you could talk to the bot?
Exactly. And then there's another symptom of why it's techno-fascist, taking control away from the user, right? What was really disturbing me the other day was there was a really interesting post on the anti-AI subreddit where there's all this data that coming out and it's connected to the whole token maxing thing that was news that you were covering earlier this week. Is a lot of these corporations now, including like Meta, Facebook, that are pushing for token maxing, are finding that the costs of the tokens are far exceeding the labor costs that they would be replacing by doing all this crap.
No, that's good. That's good, you see. And Jensen told us so, and you can trust him because he's the guy selling the tokens.
But the reason why they keep so there are people on the subreddit who are saying, okay, so it's bad enough that they want to use Gen AI to replace human labor so they don't have to pay us for our work. But now it's more expensive than paying us for our labor, so why do they keep doing it? And
So, I mean, it's the same reason as Waymo runs taxis, but the last figure we have from Waymo about is that it's 1.8 drivers per car. Per
yeah,
driver. The driverless car has 1.8 drivers. That's from 2018. It could be more now. It could be less now. We literally don't know because Waymo will not tell us, at least not in any venue where they're not allowed to lie.
so venture capital keeps throwing billions and billions and billions upon billions of dollars into Waymo, and that's the only way they stay afloat, I suppose, right?
Well,
And
it's a unit of Google, so it's sort of Google money being put into it.
so they've
It's
got
ad dollars.
they've got limitless money then.
Absolutely. So, but the attraction of it is that business will pay 3 times what it actually costs to replace a human.
Yeah,
Over and over, you see this, and it makes no business sense. But it's so like I must be very naive to think that business had anything to do with making money.
yeah. So even by basic capitalist logic, it's bullshit.
We have a book working against that. So, when's the book out?
Okay, so Technofascism Survival Guide, I promised to backers would be out probably by June, and I'm making a lot of good progress on it. So the June tentative publication date has not changed. So
Excellent.
the thing is, though, the ebook will always be available way sooner than the paperback book. But,
Cool.
but yeah,
Who are you
it's
doing your paperbacks through?
I the old I've had struggles with other platforms. The one platform that has worked for me has been Kindle desktop publishing. And I don't like
Same here.
it very much, but it's kind of sad that it worked out that way for me, that only KDP seems to work.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when I did my books like God, 9 years ago that about 25% of readers will pay for a paperback. I never knew so many people love their physical books so much, but they really do. So it's like you can get into it. It's like making a fanzine, an old
And
paper
you've used
style one.
KDP for your own books, and I've read and reviewed Libra Shrug on the Stop Gen AI blog.
Excellent. So, okay, that's the book covered. So, well, now to finish off, people can find you at stopgenai.com,
So that's our
a
group.
URL that I'm sure everyone has bookmarked.
But as far as ordering your advanced copy of Technofascism Survival Guide is concerned, I would recommend actually going to kimcrawley.com. And that's a URL that redirects my Linktree page. And I will make sure the top entry on my Linktree page takes you straight to my Kickstarter for
I'll be
Technofascism.
putting the links in the show notes as well, so everyone can just go to those. Okay. Thank you, Kim. And thank you to the viewers. We hope you enjoyed this special episode, and Pivot to AI will see you on Monday. Bye for now. And that's it.
All right, so I'll